give life, you are love. You bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. And great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only.
Hello everyone and welcome to Worship Online with Upper Clyde Parish Church. Wherever you are and whenever you're watching this, we are so pleased that you are with us gathering in this way to worship our God who is great, who is worthy to be praised, who loves us beyond all measure. Now, it's the fourth Sunday of Lent, so let's do a little bit of a recap. So we began in the wilderness with Jesus just before he started his public ministry. We moved into the region of Caesarea Philippi with Jesus and his disciples as they were traveling around doing ministry. And we were listening in on some of the conversations that they were having. And it was at that particular point where Peter made that statement to Jesus, "You are the Messiah." Following on from that, we then were in Jerusalem last week and watching as Jesus overturned all the tables in the temple. This week we're still in Jerusalem and we're privy to a conversation. We're listening in to a conversation held under the cover of darkness between a teacher of the law, Nicodemus, and Jesus. Our themes then for this time of worship are covering light and darkness. That's an ever-present theme in the Gospel of John, as well as thinking about curiosity, wondering, and hope. But before we move more fully into our worship time, there's quite a slew of notices. So if you're sitting comfortably, let's begin. This Sunday is also not just the fourth Sunday of Lent, but also Mothering Sunday. Traditionally, it was a time when people who worked in service were able to have the day off to go home and to visit with their families and to go and worship in their mother church. Now, over the years and time since then, the meaning and tradition has changed quite a bit. And we're now more inclined to follow or to take a more American approach, which is fine. So while we celebrate those in our lives who've mothered us, who've nurtured us, whether it's by blood or through choice, well, it's made a little bit harder this year with all the social distancing to fully mark the day. But that doesn't stop us from being thankful to those in our lives who've encouraged us, who've sought the best for us, who've pulled us up when we've been down, and who've had a big part in our lives for shaping us into the people we are. So even in lockdown, we can still be thankful for folks who have been mothers to us and have nurtured us. It's also a strange kind of anniversary this Sunday because it was on this Sunday last year that we held worship in our church building for the last time before we went into lockdown, although we didn't know that at the time. What an odd and strange year it's been since then. But this week, the First Minister indicated that subject to all being relatively well, that church buildings might be allowed to be open in time for Easter. We have to wait and see on that. And the Kirk Session and I have had a conversation, and should permission be given, and subject as ever to presbytery approval, we would hope to open the building on Easter Sunday, but we'll keep you informed. There's a bit of paperwork that's come through that needs to be filled out in order for us to be able to open. So basically we just have to do all the rechecks and make sure everything's in order, and then send off the form to be okayed by Presbytery. But when we do open, remember, we still have to observe all the social distancing and all of the COVID-19 regulations. That means that we've got quite limited numbers who'll be able to come to worship. Only 15 people, 15 individuals, and you'll need to book your place. And Janet Telfer's offered to be our booking secretary. You're not just going to be able to turn up, and I'm really sorry about that. Now, it's not ideal, but it's a glimmer of hope. It's a glimmer of light. So, as I said, watch this space for further information. And remember that it is subject to change, which seems to be the theme for this last year. In the meantime, in the background, what's been happening, we've been putting together our church newsletter, and many thanks to all of those of you who contributed, and to Dee, our editor. We're really hoping that those of you who are on the congregational roll will receive your newsletter around about Holy Week. Well, it'll be in time for Easter. And depending on my tech skills, I'm going to be putting it up on our church blog as well for our online community and for wider availability. One last wee thing, which is about our ongoing Lent challenges. Now, during the week, this past week, I've heard from some of you about how you've been getting on with some of these challenges, from making messy but delicious pineapple upside down cakes to producing biscuits from a recipe that seemed to have enormous quantities. So Greta from Lead Hills was telling me she made the recipe and there were just so many biscuits. So I'm glad that those of you who are taking on the challenges have been enjoying them. And here's a reminder that as of Monday, this coming Monday, the 15th, our Lego challenge begins, and it'll continue through till Easter Saturday. So the Saturday just before Easter. So it's a challenge for the young and the young of heart. And that's going to be across on our YouTube channel. Keep an eye out for that. So that was quite a lot to get through, wasn't it? But these are all the notices, so let's be still for a moment now as we move into our time of worship. Let's put aside all the many, many things that might be on our minds at the moment. Let's be still and let's prepare ourselves to meet with God in worship. Our call to worship. Come to God who gathers us in. Come to God who redeems us from trouble. Come to God who heals our distress. Come, draw near to God who sees us as we really are and who loves us anyway. So come, let us worship God. And our opening hymn for this time of worship is All Hail the Power of Jesus' Name.